Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Polkadot live stream. We're super happy to have with us today the winners of the recent Webzero Block Space Symmetry Hackathon, which was adjacent to Web3 Summit in Berlin last month. We have Sasha, Joseph, Carlo, Jeddas, Yip, and myself, Evan. Sasha, I'm going to start with you. You work for Webzero. You guys put on the event. For those that didn't attend the last session, can you just give us a little rundown of how the hackathon works and where it was and when it was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with Webzero. Webzero is an events production agency that does DevRel, and we have been busy all of this year doing like some major Web3 conferences around the globe. And our last stop this summer was actually collaborating with the Web3 Foundation, who put together the amazing Web3 Summit, which is a multidisciplinary conference that focuses on decentralized technologies and Web3 research and development. And we basically hosted the hackathon alongside that. So it was really fun. It was a 3-day event in person, hosted at the iconic cultural center called Funk House, which used to be historically was the central hub for all the propaganda of East
Oh,
Germany. So you can
yeah,
imagine the vibes there. It was a lot of
yeah,
fun.
very underground vibes, sort of true to the culture of Web3. Um, for those that didn't attend the last time we did this, just maybe give us a little bit of a breakdown of like what it is you're hoping to achieve with these hackathons and how they work. Are you giving the
Yeah.
participants like a prompt that they should follow or like a goal? And this one was also chain agnostic, as I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this hackathon was I'd say really special and different from previous hackathons that Webzero has been engaged with. Like notably, we've partnered with EZA to sponsor Polkadot's presence in Austin this year, where where the hackathon model, as a lot of people who are familiar with hackathons probably know, it's your typical sort of there's a big prize pool, there's first place, second place, third place, and people come up with the best ideas. The judges then assign prizes to the teams that they deem deserve those prizes. But really, like in those models, the hackathon kind of ends there, and that's it. What we want to do differently in how we host hackathons Webzero is to really think about what, like, to support teams that are going to be launching the product after the hackathon as part of the hackathon journey. So the hackathon itself is not the end. And what we did with this hackathon was to host an in-person hackathon where the best submissions would be the ones that the judges deemed as products that can be launched and used to make positive impact in all of Web3. So it was a chain agnostic hackathon. That's what made it very different too. We brought builders from all over the Web3 ecosystem. That includes Starknet, Ethereum, Polkadot. There was some Cosmos builders too in the room. And
Nice.
in order to frame it that way, we made it very open. We basically said anything that is moving the needle on improving Web3 for users or developers is fair game.
Got it.
So this is much like, so the tagline is public goods. And so, yeah, what came out of it was we actually had 4 winners that were announced on the day of the hackathon, and then 4 runner-ups. So today we have one of the 4 winners that was announced on the day of. That's the Pappy team that's with us, and then 2 of the runner-ups. So Chainview and Empathy Technologies, which Yip is representing. So really excited to hear a little bit about what they built and what's next for them, right? Because so my work right now is to support these teams and to make sure that, for instance, we've got like Pappy Actions. We're going to learn about what they built and stuff, but they're in a phase where they're ramping some things up to be able to push the product that they built and pitched to the judges during the hackathon, in order to make that a useful product by in the next few weeks, in the next 2 months. We don't know. Let's talk about it today, right? So that's the
Got it.
whole point. We really want to be making these hackathons, like making an impact as launching
Nice.
products as a result.
That's great. Okay. So as you said, we have some of the winners here, and I'll just hand it right back to you, Sasha. Do you want to start introducing them, or who do you want to go with
Yeah,
first?
let's jump right into it. So one of the teams I've been chatting with is chain view. So the submission is represented by Giras and his project. I mean, I remember meeting him. I remember just you and I met like the first day, and you were just kind of tinkering around. And I peered over your shoulder. I'm like, this could be a really interesting tool for sure. Um, and what's particularly cool about having Giras on the call right now is that his world is EVM. His thing is like he built a tool that is well, he's going to talk about it, but it's a tool that is really useful for people that are visualizing their wallets and the different interactions they have with different wallets in the EVM world. And so right now we're kind of exploring what it could look like to integrate it into maybe another product that would be using this. Without going into too much stuff, I wanna just give the mic to Jetta. So why don't you
Yeah,
take it
thanks,
away?
Sasha. That's a great intro. Yeah, it's pretty much it. I probably can share my screen. I think it'll be a
Oh,
bit
before
more.
doing that, why don't you tell us, like, first of all, how was the hackathon for you? What was the experience like?
I mean, the hackathon's pretty great. I came in there. Well, to be fair, to begin with, I live in Berlin, so for me, just to call down to the hackathon was pretty cool experience. Just the fact that I can go home and hack at home as well, and a little bit let's say in the venue itself. But initially, yeah, I didn't have much of an idea. I had like just general ideas that I wanted to work on, and then obviously I had my normal daytime job. But eventually, I kind of stuck with an idea where I kind of felt like the whole Explorer experience is pretty bad. Let's say on multi-chain views. So let's say if you want to track your wallets on, I don't know, Etherscan and then Basescan and all the other different L2s that there is going on, and let's say even Polkadot, it's a pretty nasty experience if you try to connect everything and just visualize everything in one go. Just to be able to, I don't know, see one wallet to another wallet and then, yeah, combine it with everything. I felt like that was like a huge problem, at least in my current job, where I just was basically tasked to combine all these networks into one single app where I had to work on everything. And for me, it was kind of a pain to manage everything. So yeah, I think I used the hackathon as sort of a place to just sit down and think about it and just to figure out what can be done to just maybe even make it not even just for, I don't know, normal non-web 2 technical people, but even just for web 3 people who just are not that technical, to be able just to go in and understand and just to have a general view of what's actually happening on chain in, I don't know, like 5-10 seconds of just maybe scrolling and not needing to click 50 million pages on Etherscan and then going to different pages basically all around the place. So yeah, I just kind of had that idea specifically, and then I explored the idea of bubble max. I think that's the point where Sasha came up to me and he was like, "Okay, that's the pretty cool idea," and he helped me a little bit to iterate it. And it kind of confirmed on the fact that okay, maybe I should maybe go in the direction of that because I think it's a nice little way of visualizing things for yeah, just as an instance. I
Yeah,
think
super neat. I mean, and I think with you also, it's like you are working in Web3 already, but you
yeah.
came to this hackathon with just like a desire to just learn something new, right? And this was an idea that was going to help you do that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, for me, hackathons are just a way to just sit down and focus for 48 hours on something that you're passionate about or just feel like building, to be honest. Because I think daily you have normal day, like 8, 9 to 5, whatever job you have. Usually you work overtime, but you have your job and you want to build something, but just never find the time to do so because there's so many different distractions. And hackathons is just a great way to just focus for 2 days, let's say, or 3 days that you have and just iterate, let's say.
Let's see what you built. Let's see what you built.
Let's do it.
Is there any questions for Jetta from anyone else on the call right now? I guess
don't know.
maybe once you demo your what you built, we'll have some good questions, I'm sure.
I should just
Yeah.
mention,
Can you guys see
Sasha.
my screen?
Yep. No, we cannot.
You
Um,
cannot. Okay.
I should just mention to the
let's
audience
see.
though that if you do have a question, you can leave it in the chat, and we'll get to all the
Oh.
questions at the end. Okay. Yeah, we can see your screen now.
There we go. So basically, this is excuse my UI. I'm not a a designer, but I think currently I'm prioritizing functionality and just kind of direction of the app over the actual UI and making it look nice. I think that can come later. But basically, the idea is you have your simple little search toolbar where you can type in a wallet address, which, give me a second, I'll do that now. I'm a little bit unprepared. So here I go. I'll plug in my own wallet address and I click on track. So essentially, you have this amazing loading screen. And then you get a view like this. So basically, this is the general idea. It's a huge mess at the moment. It's kind of ties into one of my issues at the moment, because if you have a lot of transactions, it looks a little bit messy. Yeah, but a general idea is, hey, I have a wallet address, and now I'm concerning with two different chains, which is Ethereum mainnet and it's basically base chain. And I'm displaying all of my transactions that I've done over the lifetime of that specific wallet on those two chains. The idea would be to iterate, obviously, and to enable all the other EVM chains, and then introduce Polkadot as well, and maybe Starknet and zkSync, and just all of them in one place. I think that would be kind of like an end goal.
So can you zoom in and see what it really looks like? What are these nodes? Maybe explain it, like really explain like I'm 5 kind of thing.
Okay, so I put in a wallet address, which was my wallet, and that should be in the very center. This is my main wallet, and this will then branch out into these different little circles, and each circle is another wallet I've interacted with. I can zoom in, and as you can see, I've done quite a few transactions. So this is including base chain and mainnet. I currently just minimized both just to keep it kind of a little bit less chaotic. But the idea is that, like, hey, I can actually have a look at all of these little interactions, and I can move these nodes around. And let's say I know this specific wallet here, and I want to, I don't know, track it. The idea then also, I could iterate to where you can click on this node and then see all the wallets that this wallet has interacted with, and then how does that affect my other little circle here. But for now, I just have a kind of a like one level of iterations, just for the sake of using free keys and just managing, first of all, of how can I filter all the stuff. But essentially, yeah, you click on a node. If you want to learn more about it, once you click on it, you get like this kind of table of all the transactions that my wallet has done with this specific node, or this wallet in this case. And yeah, there's only one currently, but there, I think, are some different nodes where there should be more. But yeah, the idea is you can kind of move these things around in a way that makes sense for you. So let's say I want to just separate these two nodes here and then just tidy this up myself. I think leaving that to the user is it makes more sense. And then I can kind of save the layout, come back to it later, and then just have like a cleaned up view after, I don't know, a couple of minutes of, let's say, sorting out. For now, I'm still missing some filtering. So maybe filtering specific wallets, filtering out all of the zero like value airdrops that I'm receiving. But I think this could like turn into a decent solution for just to be able to manage your own wallets and maybe the wallets that you know about. So idea would be maybe to add I don't know, a search toolbox where you can add in like different wallets that you own as well, and then see how those behave with this whole view. And then again, this is multi-chain, so you can also see how it actually transacts on multiple levels of layer ones, layer twos, and just like have a one general view. I think it's a cool enough idea to pursue for now. Yeah.
Super cool. Does anyone have any questions on this? On what Get Us built? I certainly would have some along the lines of like, so what's next and stuff. But before we go there, maybe there's some questions. Evan, do you have any?
Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Oh, we can't hear you.
You can hear me. You can hear me.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I can't hear you. No.
I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you perfectly.
Everyone can hear me except for Sasha, I think. But
oh,
that's weird.
I can't hear Evan.
Okay. I was curious. So you said it was just like one layer, but it looks like some of the first layer nodes are connected to another one. So what are those?
So this is basically the token movements. Initially, you basically interact with a contract, but let's say if it's a Uniswap contract, it essentially does some transactions within that internal transaction of that contract. So each of those little connections between those would be those little transactions within the contract.
Okay, got it.
So just
it would be cool if you could add filters for dates and like the amount of the asset you send and so on as well?
Yeah, that's all
It's
a work in
coming.
progress. Currently, I'm a one-man show, so it's finding the time after work
Yeah.
to just build something. Currently, I'm doing a lot of research into how I can integrate Polkadot, because I've talked to Sasha a little bit, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a cooler idea also to just integrate different chains. And for me, it's also another learning experience, because I've never really experienced Polkadot as like a chain and used it for development or just normal everyday use. Yeah, so I'm just kind of learning a bit more. I'm using basically this project as an excuse to learn and to explore different ideas as well.
Okay, cool. Looks like Sasha is just going to log.
Super cool. Does the Pappy team have any questions for Gidas and what he built? Oh, that's no questions. So for me, like, I mean, what I'm really curious, and this is a good example of like a simple hackathon idea, that's like, pretty much like doable in the 3 days with like prospective, really interesting applications and utility in it. So how I see this specifically is on accounting, right? Like to be able to do your taxes, to be able to see all the interactions that your different wallets have had with other wallets for the purpose of accounting. And the future is multi-chain. What Gidas built is EVM specific. Like let's help him bring this to Polkadot. That's kind of for me these products are only as good as the accessibility throughout Web3, right? So I mean, I'm particularly excited and like seeing maybe how this could be integrated. First of all, like it could be very much like an API that an existing product uses, or it could be a standalone UI that people could just use. So we're still figuring this out, Gidas and I. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun little journey to really just try to put this in the hands of potential end users. So
correct.
Yeah, I was even thinking that we could, for example, take that to Polkadot and then take advantage of the Polkadot and Ethereum bridge, right? And as well track the transactions of different ERC20 tokens across both worlds, right? So that could be a great addition as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of stretch this in many different ways. For now, it's kind of the more of a challenge just to figure out where to go and just to pick a journey, let's say, within that. Yeah, I have a little bit of limited time and a lot of things that I want to do, and sometimes it's a little bit distracting to have all these ideas.
We did have someone from the LinkedIn chat that said that this could be a cool way, in certain countries where money laundering is a problem. I don't know, but maybe you have a comment on that. I don't know if you can see the comment in the chat, Gidas, but
from LinkedIn. I mean, I've got inspired by I think one Twitter post of I think Zach XBT. Not sure what the exact name of him is, but he had some sort of a similar idea where he also used these little nodes and connections between the wallets to just say like, okay, this is the scammer, and then these are the wallets that the scammer has interacted with. So obviously it's a cool tool for these kind of people. For now, it's just a cool tool, I think, and I need to just figure out a way to integrate.
If there's any ideas, shoot them our way in the Blockspace Builders chat, the Webzero. We can drop a link of that in the chat. But I think for the sake of moving on to the other projects, for the sake of time, let's maybe move on to Yip and what you built. Hey. So I remember meeting Yip, and she basically came into the hackathon with some ideas, but a lot of like connections and people that she kind of brought with her and said, hey, let's just build something. And I remember you guys being very busy in the corner of the room for at least the better half of the 3 days. Why don't you give us a spiel on how the hackathon experience was for you, and tell us what you built and what did you get out of the hackathon so far?
Okay, thank you so much. So it was indeed quite a busy time because we came into the hackathon just with an idea. I had announced in the group that I want to build peace technologies, but the first implementation of peace technologies is empathy technologies. and what exactly is empathy technologies? It was still not very clearly defined when we started the hackathon. We started extremely late because we were busy running a 50 women meetup, like kind of a meetup dedicated for women in the space at Web3 Summit. And then from that community that I then started to recruit all the partner communities like Women of Polkadot, which is really amazing. And then the Crypto Girls Club and so on. We brought all these women together. And then out of that 50 women, I recruited a few women that did not actually want to participate in the hackathon, but very similar to what Jeddas just shared earlier. It's just like, hey, how can we inspire more people who are actually not hands-on builders, who maybe use the technology, but somewhat could benefit a lot from really playing with the tech to come together and build something. Typically, I use hackathons. I participated in a few hackathons, won a few hackathons, organized my own hackathons, judge and mentor a lot at hackathons. I feel like, you know, if you're one of these mentors and you tell teams what to do, then every now and then you should up your game and also participate. So just, you know, not to lose track to reality. So we built a team of 8 people, which is extremely challenging given that we came in very, very late. I think by Monday evening, it was clear that we would be 8 people, somebody on the back end, somebody on the front end, a few people that give content to us. And we said anyway, because our mission is to onboard more people into Web3 in the fastest way, which hackathons is one of the fastest way to onboard people into blockchain. We said, let's give it a go. And 4 people were remote, which added on top to that. They're basically remote in the sense they were there, but then they had to leave earlier because they did not plan to attend Web3 Summit for a full 3 days and so on, but we still managed. So I'm extremely proud of the entire team that everyone gave their best in the time and supported me in holding everything together. What is empathy tech now? Should I speak about that, Sasha, or what?
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's jump right into it.
Okay, empathy technology is basically a first milestone in a set of technologies to make peace more profitable than war. With my company, basically, we are a market intelligence platform, JEDI, and the idea is to use technology as a force for good. We've been running since a year, and then we used the hackathon to put our minds and brains together to explore an idea that we think is still like missing in our existing product. And empathy technology is the idea to say, hey, if you want to learn something in the world, and many people who are new to blockchain, they have no clue about any of the concepts in blockchain. What's the fastest way for you to learn anything you want to learn because you understand the technology, right? That's why it's called empathy. And the way we looked at it from a conceptual point of view is we can say any concept in the world is explained by other concepts, right? And there will always be, no matter how far away are you from the blockchain space, there will be other concepts that you are already familiar with that have a very high familiarity towards concepts that explain blockchain. And blockchain, obviously, as you know, is already a basket of different concepts together, depending on which perspective you take on the Web3 ecosystem. So we broke it down. We basically looked at a lot of different data. Our data set was like transcripts from the Decoded conference of 2024. It's on YouTube. We just pulled in the data. We looked at all the transcripts, and then we derived a set of concepts. It was 7 concepts that we said, okay, the entirety of these 7 concepts, they will make up whatever the decoded body of knowledge. And then we said, okay, if you are somebody, for example, for our target group, typically I work with women to help them get very productive in the blockchain space in a very fast way. Somebody, most often it's somebody who already knows about marketing and loves technology and thinks, oh, marketing, technology, and finance together is like blockchain, really cool. I can contribute and ride the wave. So what would they kind of need to learn in order to reach that, become like liquid staking expert? Like, just put it like that. So obviously they know certain things from marketing, like incentive mechanisms and so on. And how can we teach them then the fastest path towards learning this? And this is called the empathy technologies, and the implementation we developed for the hackathon was called the path of Tao. And the way we did it was we broke it down into different concepts, and we calculated familiarity scores in a very rudimentary way. I think there's much better ways to do it mathematically correct, but we just used Gen AI to, how do you say, estimate the familiarity scores. And then we calculated the top path. And the top path, we called it the path of tau, because that's the learning path you take in order to minimize your cognitive efforts, right? So you basically now have a model in which you can say the typical path somebody would be suggested to learn blockchain is learn course A, B, C, D, E, like modules. And then you just spend like 7 hours, 8 hours, 15 hours, 30 hours, whatever, 180 hours to learn that. But in the Jedi way or empathy technologies way of looking at things, we'd say, okay, you have this background, you want to learn this, let's calculate the fastest way for you. And every step you take, obviously you will learn more things, so your path might change. And this path, now the next step of empathy technologies is to literally think about a gaming logic, like a single player strategy gaming logic, where we can say, there's a game tree. You're like, I think inspired maybe when you think of these strategy games like Civilization or whatever, you just have, you're a player, you have a boat and you want to conquer unknown territory. What's the path for you to do that? And this is basically what we want to bring into the blockchain space. And we think some of the features from blockchain are really cool, because when you build an on-chain game logic, what you can do is you can automate reward mechanisms, you can build smart contracts that give you kind of incentives. And then the second is also we can track the data. Now that you can do on scale and say, like, how do players interact with new concepts and how can we reward them? Like, what's the fastest way to learn a concept in a very empiric way? And that we can kind of take. So now I think I spoke about the vision.
Yeah, if you help us come back to what you did at the hackathon, I think it was presenting the approach, and you also demonstrated it through a game. That was kind of encapsulating.
No, we had not built the game yet. All this on-chain game logic came just after the hackathon, when we were like, really, okay, how do we take that to the next level in the blockchain space? What we have
maybe talk to us about bringing that to the next stage. What is the next focus for you guys right now?
Okay, so
Oh, awesome. You're sharing your screen. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead too much. Okay,
no,
awesome.
You are just amazing. You're like a really good coach, Sasha. Actually, Sasha always brings us back to the focus and what's relevant. So basically here, look at this. For example, after the summit, we took the content from YouTube, from Blockchain Web3 Summit, and we put everything. This already existed, but some features like the executive summary of the entire body of content did not exist yet, right? And out of that, basically you can generate learning content. So what we had already produced for the hackathon was for Decoded, not for Web3 Summit, to generate modules that then can be done equally. But here you can also make a MC quiz, 5 answers now about Gnosis. I don't know, right? So all of this you can already build, and what we just added a few features after the concept. And now the next step is just to say, okay, how can we build now this empathy technology user interface? Like the user comes in and we have to basically, here you can already get like the learning content, right? What is Gnosis primarily known for, and blah, blah. And all the content is already based on this Web3 Summit body of knowledge that we fed into the Jedi platform. But what is missing is now, how does it link back to the, how does it link to the learner? Because for us, we are a market intelligence platform, but we're not an education platform yet. But the education will come, like I'm saying, Sasha wants to learn ABC. What's the fastest way for Sasha to do that? And we can output your learning a track, and we can gamify it with this on-chain gaming logic, which we are developing at this very moment in time. And yeah, nothing is built yet out of this kind of on-chain gaming logic. We did some NFT minting on Solana and so on, but I think, you know, this is so lame to say, okay, you do some courses and then you get an on-chain certificate and so on. I think we can do so much more cool things in the blockchain space. I want to stop here.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think it's about, you know, it's one thing to have content. And in fact, you know, I'm working on this currently with the Sub-Zero organizing, and, you know, we have a lot of cool activations. We want to engage developers in certain ways. And it's sort of like, instead of just for example, at a conference, you have a booth that just has very static information. It's always a little bit more fun to have some sort of engaging element. Here, with what you're presenting, Yip, it's a web browser interface where you're acquiring knowledge, you're testing your knowledge, and the question is, how do you bridge the gap then from that to the person actually acquired the knowledge and is equipped to jump into whatever that field is. Applied cryptography, for example, somebody who's got a math background, who's an engineer, who knows a little bit about cryptography, but you really want to onboard them to being a researcher in cryptography. What does that journey look like for them? Well, this is where empathy technologies comes in. Am I correct?
Yes, totally. It's called empathy because it will empower you to speak to cryptography experts. It might not, because it would be a bit difficult, I think challenging for anybody who is an expert in cryptography to hear that somebody who comes in no knowledge will become a cryptography expert. I think this is not true. But what is true is somebody who will come in to be able to communicate their needs, their visions, their problems they're trying to solve together to a cryptography expert. That's where people can really understand each other, and that's the basis for collaboration. Right? Else people cannot collaborate in a very effective way with each other when they cannot understand each other. And this is where JEDI or empathy technologies comes in.
Super cool. So you mentioned the things that you'd like to be building in the next phase of the project, and they have to do with building user interfaces. You are aware that we have the Pappy team here with us, so they might have ideas to help you with some proof of concepts or something. But maybe before we move on to them, do you want to share some concrete things that you're focusing on now in this next stage, and if there's any apps that you're thinking about building around this core technology that you presented?
Yes, it will be like this on-chain gaming interface where really you solve some quests to get rewarded, but the empathy technology algorithm is fueling these quests. So we need to actually look into teams or talking to Open Guild at the moment, for example, to think about what is possible opportunities. Actually, as we speak, in 2.5 hours, I'm training 50 people in Web3 cybersecurity on Polkadot SDK. So it's kind of training and education is our home turf, and I think it's gonna be like 70% women. So we are the engine that basically fuels education, but we have to figure out how that will be useful for the Polkadot ecosystem, like very concretely useful. And I would appreciate any feedback from any of you here. We can take it offline.
Is there any questions from the people we have on the call here today? Carlo, Josep, Gilas, any questions for Yip before we move on?
I don't particularly have any questions, but just congratulations, because it's actually a very kind of difficult job to kind of put all together and kind of make it easier to onboard people and stuff. So yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking. I think one of the challenges that well, at least why I'm excited in supporting Yip in this journey right now is to identify the small thing that we can do, the small piece of technology, or the small piece of content, actually in this case, that's just is proving the concept and onboarding new users. That's really the goal of these hackathons, or this hackathon that we did at Web3 Summit, is let's get excited by the prospects of getting users to what you built at the hackathon. So very, very excited about doing that. So now, like, we've got, we're kind of halfway through. We still have a little bit more time for comments or anything. Evan, you have anything to add to Yip's thing, to what Yip built? And Yip and her amazing team, by the way. You were how many team members were you again? You were
8.
6, I think. 8.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
Extremely crazy. 5 women.
Yeah, that's also tricky to manage when you're in a hackathon. It's like sometimes it's much easier just to be hacking solo. I think Josep and his team is an exception because they already have a lot of experience working together. But yeah, 8 people, that's a lot. But it's a good mix if you have like diversity in skills and areas of interest, for sure. So let's move on to the Pappy team. I think I'll give them a quick introduction so the project that Josep and Carla are working on is really moving the needle on improving the libraries that we use for front-end development in the Polkadot ecosystem. And they came into the hackathon and built something very specific that uses this library, but has the possibility of, I would say, really hitting, or basically both onboarding not just developers, but also end users. And so they built a thing called Pappy Actions. And without further ado, I'm going to let either Josep or Carlo take the mic.
Yeah, so yeah, first of all, I want to really thank you and kind of congratulate you, because the hackathon worked really well and all the Webzero team was very like responsive and helpful. So first of all, that's an important thing to say. And then, so this hackathon, as you said, we came to build what we called Pappy Actions, but I'm gonna say something about why Pappy and not Polkadot.
First, like let's not rush into it. Evan, you don't need to put my camera on right now. I just want to say, like, present us, like, what is Pappy and where did it start? Then going to, like, around the hackathon, what was the motivation of being at the hackathon?
Exactly. That was where I was going. So basically, Pappy, or Polkadot API, Pappy in short, it's a suite of libraries that our main goal is to help developers, especially dApp developers, to interact with Polkadot SDK-based networks, right? And so, and the idea is that to build a suite of libraries that are very composable. So the idea of not being monolithic. So like you can add small pieces to help in your way to interacting in the end and building dApps that interact with Polkadot-based networks. And then, so our goals with this hackathon was to prove ourselves, actually. So go to a hackathon and have just 3 days to build a thing that a nice enough thing with our libraries and find the problematics or the nuances that our users find when they start developing with Pappy, and that was really useful. So besides the Pappy Actions project, it was interesting to kind of prove our libraries and say, okay, yeah, maybe we could improve here or add more documentation on this side, because even us, maybe we develop something and 2 months later, we don't recall actually which was the what we coded in the libraries, right? So it worked as well, really great to improve documentation. And then regarding the Pappy Actions, I want to introduce first Polkadot Actions, right? So our idea with this project is to kind of build a standard system, not related only to Pappy. So Pappy is just an implementation detail. It's a way of creating these Polkadot actions. But our idea is to create a simple set of actions that the user can do in Polkadot. For example, send, for example, delegate, that are the two ones that we built in the hackathon, and make it easy to in a URL format that then Josep is going to show on screen, to kind of be able to share that and, for example, say delegate to someone, or delegate to me, for example, a delegate that accepts delegations on Twitter. And the idea was that, so to build these Polkadot actions, so as I said, in the end of library agnostic, let's say, suite of actions, and our implementation detail, implementing these hopefully it will be a standard at some point, we using Pappy. And the idea is as well to make the user flow as simple as possible, because we see sometimes in Polkadot ecosystem that the user flows are not as good as it could be. And in our opinion, sometimes this is more because of the libraries that the developer interacts with that do not make easy to, let's say, help the user to just do what is really needed. For example, in the case of a delegation, I want to delegate to this address, and that's it. And the library, the dApp should handle all that complexity. So now that I kind of make a theoretic, let's say, summary, I would like to introduce Giuseppe, that Giuseppe, if you want
Carlo,
to
real quick, in a
yeah.
one-liner, what the Polkadot API is a different library than the other UI libraries we can use in Polkadot. For what reasons? What makes it different?
Yeah,
I can take that one.
Do you want to take that one? Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
So a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with Papi. So here's an opportunity just to say, like, what is Papi and what makes it different from Polkadot.js?
There are a number of things that make it different. But if I had to name the most important ones, is one that Carlo already mentioned. It's a library that it's built in a very modular way. It's actually a set of libraries, right? Then at the top there is what we call the Polkadot API top level client, which is when you do like npm install Polkadot API, then you get like batteries included for doing that development. But it's built in a way that it's very modular, where its components have very well defined boundaries between them, which is something that unfortunately Polkadot.js didn't have. This is one of the main reasons why we created Polkadot API, so that it will be more maintainable and then easier to reuse some of these parts, depending on how complex it is what you're trying to do. Polkadot.js was very monolithic. This one thing. The other main reason why we built it is because when Polkadot.js was created, Polkadot was not where it is today. So it was just not possible to foresee many of the improvements that came. And some of these improvements are actually very important, and they need to be leveraged. Like now we have a properly spec'd out JSON RPC API, which we didn't have before. The old JSON RPC is not like client friendly. It's not nothing friendly. It's not even documented. It cannot be. If you want to create proxies on top of it, if you want to create like even servers that have proper like, but like so now we have a proper
pause there, just Giuseppe, is that we moved from a world previously building UIs where Polkadot really had everything in the relay chain, I think is what you were mentioning, and
then
it was not adapted to a multi-chain world.
That's
so
true. This is one of the
Okay.
many things that have changed over time. So like when Polkadot.js was created, almost everything was in the relay chain, even if we knew that was so. When Polkadot.js was created, there were lots of things that were kind of, at least in my opinion, kind of hack around to put together so we could do things. But like, I don't know if that's the best way to put it. I mean, no disrespect towards Polkadot.js. We wouldn't be anywhere where we're today if we hadn't been for it. I don't want to be, but it is true that it hasn't evolved at the same pace as Polkadot. So the library, it's built on top of proper standards, at least the new JSON RPC spec, and it's really built with the mentality of like, okay, you are not talking with a chain, you will be talking with many chains, right? So one of the things that we do is we leverage like metadata version 15 to create like really good typings and really good chain interactions for users. This is a big difference with Polkadot.js, where the typings and the type registry was like baked in, and it was very difficult to create like dApps that will interact with any chain. So this is another.
If you may, like, so just to bridge from this technical aspect of the differences. Wait, just for end users, because I know Yip here on the call has experienced this. We're talking about, so for the people that are new, right, here to what we're talking about, is that Polkadot is multi-chain, right? We've got the people's chain. If you want to set your identity in the Polkadot network, you actually use a dedicated blockchain called the People's Chain. If you want to be sending assets around, you're using a dedicated blockchain called the Assets Hub.
Yeah.
And so, but this over the last year, 2 years, really has slowly been put out into their own chains, and before they were all in one chain.
Yeah, the vision really is that the relay chain eventually will mostly serve for creating security and improving that all the chains that are connected to it are being honest, right? Like it's
and this poses problems when you're building a library like what you're building, where you have to be multi-chain, and also
Exactly.
like
So
client compatible. I think has some cool.
exactly.
There's some cool features in what in the batteries included of what you guys
So
built.
one thing that I'm going to show is that it is true that this implementation, these things should be abstracted away from the user as much as possible, right? So it is easy to fall into the implementation when creating an app. To, like for instance, for me as a user, one of the big obsessions that I have is that I don't think the user should know what a teleport is. I don't think a user should know, like a user wants to send some assets from point A to point B, full stop here. They're like, normally they like, you want to send assets to here, like this address on this chain, right? So, so what we did is to show that this is actually possible. Like one of the actions that we read actions, read intent. So like one of them is a send intent or the send action that consists on saying, okay, I want to send this amount of this asset to this address, right? And then the DApp should be able to figure out like all the possible routes. It's like I can actually show an example. I'm going to share my screen. The DApp should be so for how do I share my screen? One moment. Oh, here. The DApp should be able to. Can you see my screen? So this is like a quick proof of concept. So let's create an action, right? And let's. I don't want to spend money.
So this is literally what you guys built at the hackathon, just to be very clear for those that are watching.
So to make it fancier, I'm going to send something that is not what is the native token on Western Asset Hub. I'm going to send like one rock, and then I'm going to send it to, I don't know, to Alice, for instance. I'm going to create an action for this, right? So okay, in this address, I don't have any rock. In this address, I don't have any rock. In this one, I have some. So it's like you want to send it from the Rococo Asset Hub. Perfect. But let's see. Let me show you another example. I'm going to show a more complicated example, if you want, which is like, let's send it to Rococo Asset Hub. I'm going to send Westies. I never know if that the right name is Westies. Let's create an action. Okay, this one is more interesting, right? Like it has detected, like, hey, you have Westies on the Western Relay chain. So if you want to send it from the Western Relay chain, right, you can do it in 2 steps, from Western Relay chain to Asset Hub and from here to here, and then the DApp is going to keep track of this, and when it's ready, it will go here. Or you can send it directly from Western Asset Hub to, in this case, this will be a bridge, because we'll be breaching this, but the user doesn't need to know it's a bridge. The user just like it wants to pick up, like, so this is an example of an action that kind of tries to simplify the send flow for the user as much as possible, and we're trying to propose like a standard intent language based on the URI that defines this kind of intent, so that any decentralized application, whether it's built with Puppy or whether it's built with whatever it is, they can do it. So one of the reasons why we were very excited about building this is because we have been building this very modular library, but the next step of what we want to build is what we call the Polkadot API SDKs, which is like, until now, the libraries that we have provided are very agnostic about the business logic. But these kind of libraries, let me show you another example. Like we have an example for delegation, an action for delegation. So let's say I want to delegate to Chaos DAO, which I'm not currently delegating, and I say I want to take my normal account. This is my Joseph account. So for instance, I pick up this account, and now it's proposing me to delegate with Power 3. Why? Because I'm already this account is doing staking. So because of that, having it locked for 4 weeks, it's almost free. It's also proposing me the ideal amount based on the amount that I'm staking, and it's also telling me, hey, by the way, careful, because if you delegate to Chaos DAO, you will stop delegating to this. I'm currently delegating to Viridor, so it has detected that I'm delegating to Viridor. It's like, hey, just for you to know that if you do this will have these consequences, right? And then, so we try to create a flow that is the simplest, most straightforward flow for a given intent, trying to make it as simple as possible for the user, trying to take care of all the complexity. So yeah, this is
and there's a lot of things to be taken care of. If you don't mind me interrupting, for those that are new to Polkadot, or maybe this is the first time we're understanding like interacting in the multi-chain world of Polkadot. Well, yeah, if you're, for instance, trying to move assets from from like the Polkadot relay chain, so DOT to the asset hub is a good example. Well, typically a lot of users get confused when they just look at their asset hub account and there's no DOT, and they're like, but I have DOT on the relay chain. Well, no, actually you need to teleport it. So actually, if you want to make a transaction from the asset hub to another account that is accepting on asset hub, and all you have is DOT on the relay chain, there's a lot of hops that you need to do, that you would need to
100%.
do manually, and you need to check that this account
Right.
has this, and etc.
So
This just makes it easy for you, basically.
just for you, so for everyone to know, actually, if we look at the developer tools, you'll see that very quickly. This DApp is not using a centralized RPC; it's using the light client. That's where it has all these connections.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So it's being connected to multiple chains at the same time, but the user doesn't need to know that. Like the user, like it's not for the user to pick like, I'm connected to this now, because in order to interact with Polkadot, you need to interact with multiple chains at the same time. But we can make this as transparent as possible to the user, right? So this app is constantly checking, right in this moment, it's checking all the possible places where it can find dot balance, so it can be sent to this to this final destination, and it's handling the routing. It's handling all the complexity that is required. Okay, like if it's a teleport, I'm going to create the XCM message for teleporting. If it's a normal send, I'm going to create the transaction on the right pallet, etc., right? So
I want to pause, maybe finish your thing, and then I want to pause here and get questions from potentially Jidas and Yip, who both have maybe different experiences in the Polkadot ecosystem and in Web3. So maybe now's a good point to you can keep sharing your screen. Jidas, I'm very curious. So it's like you have experience developing in the Ethereum world. Does this problem space make sense to you? Do you have any questions and comments on what they built, basically? Like, give us your perspective. Like, I'm very curious about it.
Well, it took me a little bit of time to just figure out what some of the stuff is. But from what I understand, it seems like Polkadot has like different chains connected to this one main thing, and then each, let's say, if now let's say I receive my grant in an asset hub and I want to send it to another wallet, I'll sometimes need a different chain.
This will be the equivalent. This will be the equivalent of, imagine that you're in Ethereum and you have exactly, and you have some USDT on Arbitrum, right? And now, like, you have USDT on Arbitrum, you have USDT on Polygon, you have USDT on, I don't know, Optimism, like, who knows, right? Like, you have USDT scattered around all these different places, but you want to create an action that's like, I need to send USDT to either like the Ethereum chain or this chain in this address, right? Now, well, in Ethereum, you wouldn't be able to send that in a trustless manner or in a cheap way, but in Polkadot, you actually can, thanks to the relay chain. Like, so in Polkadot, like, all these chains are connected through a relay chain, and it comes at a cost, but it is actually feasible to have a light client, like in a completely trustless manner, to find all these balances and to find the best path to send them money trustlessly without having to rely on
and let me like
multi-sig breaches and insecure breaches and stuff like that. So yeah, so we can extract that away from this and make it like super straightforward. So you can set. So I know it's like it's a little bit
but Joseph, give Jidas a concrete example around you've got USDC on Ethereum.
Yeah.
And you want to pay a Polkadot account that accepts USDC, but using your assets on Ethereum. What is that PAPI action?
So for Ethereum, like right now we don't, like, you could use the same. So
I'm thinking you could use Bridge Hub.
You could use it. So as of today, we have not configured that route into our PAPI actions, but it's 100% possible, right? Like, what we want to propose is like an intent system where you can we want to give you an SDK where, as long as you can block the route, and today that route will be possible thanks to Snowbridge. If I want to send, well, you will be actually sending it to Asset Hub probably. Well, you cannot send it to Relay Chain. You will be sending it. It doesn't matter for the user. It's kind of like, let's say you're sending it to Polkadot, right? or maybe you want to send to Hydra. Like you have to specify the address and the final chain destination, and then we can find, oh, you have to have USDT not only inside the chains, inside these chains of Polkadot. We also found that you have some from Ethereum, and at least I will admit this route is more complicated than the others. It's a little bit trickier to do, but it's doable. And actually, now you
give you a good idea.
You gave me an idea of a cool demo, but it's definitely possible. It's possible.
That's awesome. Yep, I'd love to hear if you have any comments or questions. You've been in the Polkadot ecosystem for a while. You probably heard about Pappy. What are your impressions and comments and questions?
Great stuff. Great presentation, guys. For me, it's like routing logic optimization. It's not so different, like just a different field of application than what we try to do with empathy technologies, to say what's the best route towards achieving a certain goal. And that's like kind of what you guys are setting up. And the cool thing, I think what you guys are setting up is, once that routing logic is already kind of established, then you can link it to quantifiable rewards, right? You can either say, I want to have the least risk of somebody hacking in between, or like a counterparty failure, or you can have the fastest way or the cheapest way or whatever. And I'm just wondering, have you guys thought about how you guys would monetize this routing system, or is it like a public goods that will be given to operated by any machine?
We are building a public good library. We are just, and okay. because of that, at least what we are going to include with the SDKs of our library, like we're going to be include, like people can put things on top, of course, but we're going to put in the SDKs of our library will only be trustless bridges, right? Because they are the most secure ones, and we can, if we do well our job, thanks to the amazing work that has been done by some amazing developers like Fisco, it's now possible to actually do a dry run and see if the whole flow is going to succeed all the way till the end, which this was a problem that, because before, when you wanted to do very complex XCM transactions, it was difficult to know if there is a problem, like estimating the fees. It was a bit difficult to know, like if you're going to fall into a trap, like doing a proper dry run of the whole flow to see if that's going to work was not that possible, but now it is possible. So that's what we're going to be focused on. Now, then, if other people want to add like some other routes that are maybe cheaper at the expense of giving up security and trust, I mean, that's not for us to judge, but like the common good that we're creating is the common good that we're, it's obviously extendable, but it's for proper.
I had a question.
Yeah.
You said that when you were delegating, that you could delegate a certain amount that was optimized for your staking, unless I heard it wrong.
Yes. So basically, what we're trying to do is like we're trying to propose like the most straightforward, like we're trying to create an SDK that is like that takes into account like the business logic of common patterns, right? So when delegating on Polkadot, like it's what maybe in the future this will change, because maybe the locking period of staking is going to change, and even when that changes, then we will adapt the library. But as of today, if you are already staking and you know that someone's trying to delegate, you may as well propose the user the optimal amount. But like it's like, okay, like if you're already staking this amount and this amount is already locked for this amount of time, so you may as well delegate with a type 3. If the user wants to change it, it's on their own. They can do it. But it's making it easier for the user, because like me as a user, when I have to delegate, I have to go, oh wait, but I'm already staking. Okay, let me see how much I'm staking now. Okay, and what was the time? Oh yeah, the time 3 is the same. You know, like it's making it simpler, right? Like
I have a feature request in that case then, because some people receive vested dot that unlocks linearly over a certain amount of time. So like let's say you you are vested 1,000 DOT and they unlock over 24 months.
I am
You
one of
j-
these people, and I'm creating a tool for handling this battle, but it's not
Okay.
possible to do it in delegation. The reason being is that when you delegate for that amount, and you cannot say, "Oh, this amount is variable over time," right? Like you need to pick an amount. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, maybe I should listen to your feature request. But if it is what I think it is,
well, so yeah, like so basically,
I
I
have
think
the
what a
same
lot of people,
request, by the way.
yeah, I think what a lot of people when they receive vested DOT, they try to calculate how much will have vested in, let's say, the 28-day period if you did a 3x lock.
right?
Maybe it's a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, right? Like if you, yeah, you can make a. I mean, normally, like the reason why we did like that is because, like, normally, if you already have dot vest, like if you have dot is investing and you are and you're staking, almost always the staking already reflects what you have vested and normally a little bit more. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's very unlikely that if you're doing staking, you're basically doing staking for less of what you have pending to
Right.
vest.
Yeah.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
So it normally implicitly, like I'm one of these people, like normally implicitly, just by looking at how much they have staked, you are already taking care of that.
Got it.
Because the vesting is a little bit more. I mean, it's just a nice default, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do it like that. But like, what is more important is like most UIs until recently. Now people have started to change that thanks to the fact that in part we have created awareness of this. But until now, people for delegating, they will create like the normal transactions, like just delegate. But you cannot do that. Like you have to first check, like, are they already delegating? Have they voted recently? Should you remove votes? You should inform the users what the implications of these actions are. So you cannot let the user just delegate because then the transaction is going to fail. They were going to pay the fees and they're going to be frustrated, right? You need to
And
let
that's
the
what
user know. Yeah.
That's what Thibaut and Nikos built in their team,
Yes.
right?
Delegate.
That we
Yes,
had
and
2
they
weeks ago. Delegates.
we have a really good symbiosis. Like I mean, they use some of our code, which we're super happy. That's why we're bringing a library. Like we're not we're competing and collaborating, but like it's like, oh, we're going to build these 2 actions, and they were like, oh, we're actually building delegate, which is we were focusing more on handling all the like all these edge cases and stuff. They were handling more on creating like the best user experience, more from I mean, they were using Polkadot API that we're getting used to. Like what I'm trying to say is that we cannot help each other without colluding, if that makes sense, right? Like but yeah, yes.
There was a
Yeah.
cool synergy between the 2 teams. I think that's one of the really nice things of the hackathon. We saw people kind of collaborating. We saw people kind of exchanging ideas. It was all open source, so people could
Exactly.
contribute and
Exactly.
pick different ideas and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think that especially worked really nicely with the Pappy team and the
Yeah,
delegate
exactly.
team.
Yeah,
for
basically
sure.
because so it was nice to interact in person, not only with your colleagues, but also with people that is using actually the work that you are doing. So yeah, that was one of the best things of
So
being in the
before we
hackathon,
completely wrap up, what's next, guys? Like, what did we decide we're gonna do next? I vaguely remember it was like 3 weeks ago. I think we chatted. I'm joking. I would like to hear it from you guys. What do you guys? What do you want to focus on next to ship happy actions? And I know that you've got a lot
Do
to
you
focus
want-
on right now, and that's what we basically
Yeah.
talked about. And soon we can basically pencil in maybe a date in the calendar sometime in October where we launch the first version of Happy Actions. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. So like as you saw, like the Pappy actions are fairly, they have shaped up a little bit more since the hackathon. For us, the next step, the most important next step is to abstract away like the common logic that it's like kind of baked into this DApp, and to put it into an SDK so that can be reused for anyone, so that they can create the DApp in any framework they want. They want to do it to Vue or React or Svelte or whatever, or vanilla JavaScript, doesn't matter. Abstract away this. So this is our main goal with this is we don't want to. We're not trying to make a competitive product. We're trying to kind of show the way to people who want to build like the way to integrate these kind of functionalities into their apps. Like, hey, maybe have a look at this and use it and learn. And
So when we chatted, what resonated most with me in the next step for bringing this project to being used by real people. That means either developers or end users. And in this case, what I said when I introduced you guys, it kind of hits the nail on the head on both groups, right?
Yes.
I think that the having actions that you could sort of just put into your UIs, just kind of take your whatever already prepackaged thing and put it into your own dApp. Great. But also these actions are really useful, for people like Evan and I that want to see the like simple actions on log.dot and longevity of the periods of lockup periods. Or we can imagine a lot of like applications that come out that are just simple, very simple, dead simple UIs around basic stuff that we need to do on Polkadot as end users. So next steps like that we discussed is like, well, let's get some templates out there. Let's get some developers kind of tinkering and maybe taking a basic idea like you just demonstrated, Giuseppe, and making it into a product, making it like putting more UI and UX effort, for instance. You guys aren't in the domain of building these products. Yip, you asked a good question. Like, is there any thoughts of making this profitable? No, the Pappy team it's a public goods resource. The library that they're building is a public goods resource. Their business is not making these products, but maybe like let's encourage other people to build products on based on what you guys built. That's where I'm particularly excited in stepping in and giving some support, especially leading up to Sub-Zero, where we can have some really cool activities around launching epic UIs based on what you guys built.
That's it. So the idea for us is to empower other developers and kind of, so with the know-how that we already have from being all around the ecosystem, our goal is to kind of help, first of all, empower DApp developers and then help new ones to kind of find the path in the Polkadot world that it's for sure very difficult. And this happens with both Pappy core libraries, let's say, and as well Pappy Action. So like, in the end, empowering developers. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks so much for presenting.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, maybe we can onboard Geras to Pappy.
Yeah, of course. We always like to spend some time with people that is going into Polkadot, or even if the person is already in Polkadot, help the developer to switch to Pappy. We are always happy and helpful to do so.
For sure. We'll have to connect.
Very cool. Well, that kind of wraps up the projects. Evan, if you wanted to add a few things, do we have any like exciting announcements we wanna use this time for, or anything on your end?
I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but there will be a hackathon at Sub-Zero in Bangkok, Thailand, November 9th and 10th, I believe. Yes.
I think I'm hearing different dates.
Okay.
Yep.
I can verify that. But in any case, maybe we could tell people how to get involved. God, where's the date? I don't want to give people the wrong date now.
I mean, the dates for Sub-Zero is 9 to 11 November.
9 to 11. I said 9 to 10. Yeah. Okay.
That's
9 to 11
date.
is Sub-Zero. So those that are planning to go to DevCon, make sure to come to Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is happening the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And we're doing some fun overlapping activities with DevCon. I believe that I heard today that One Block is actually hosting a hackathon on the 14th, somewhere in the DevCon week, happening in Bangkok. So book your tickets. And it's going to be a fun conference. So Sub-Zero is the Polkadot developer conference that's been hosted since the early days of Substrate back in 2018, 2019. And for the first time, it's being hosted by Webzero, which is the entity that I'm working with, the same entity that hosted the hackathon at the Web3 Summit this last month. So really, really excited about that. It's going to be really fun, guys.
Sub-Zero Reset, it's being branded as. You said something interesting last time, Sasha, that you don't necessarily have to be technical to participate in a hackathon. And it kind of got me thinking, like, I might want to think of a couple ideas that I want to put out there. Of course, you need a team up with someone who is technical to build it, but you could encourage people that just have an idea for like a UI improvement to find
totally
to team up with and participate.
And really something we're trying to do here for Sub-Zero, where there's so many things that like need the attention of non-developers, really, right? Like products, like I mean, what Yip presented on Empathy Technologies, I think that's like bridging a gap of like ways of thinking about how to do educational content. I've worked on teams where it's just a bunch of engineers doing educational content. Doesn't really work. We need perspectives. We need other perspectives. And at these hackathon, or at least insofar as Sub-Zero, like we are not hosting an official hackathon at Sub-Zero, but there might be some other activities along those lines. But what we are going to be focusing on is catering to all these different audiences. Like, yes, we want UI developers that can talk to Carlo and Josep and like be like, hey, I just need to help on this library stuff. But we also want product people. We want people that have a vision for creating that app that has all the actions maybe. And you know what? It could very well be that someone comes up with a really cool idea that monetizes on the different flows and actions that you might want to have in the Polkadot ecosystem. That would be completely independent from the Pappy team, but completely open for anyone that has that vision and aptitude to like take on a project like that. So yes, we want to encourage as many people to come from all walks of skill sets, let's say, and that's what makes these products best, like as good as possible. I think there's a very clear call to action in a certain way from the Pappy team being like, we're going to build this. Now we just need people that can take it and to make it into some cool thing that then will be useful. It's not in the business of the Pappy team to like do customer surveys and all that stuff, right? It's in the hands of now the community. And hopefully we'll be able to make this announcement, right? Like when can people start tinkering around? I think it's close, right? But yeah, Carlos, you have some comments on that.
No, basically it's exactly what you said. So our main goal and main point is to ship to developers and make it super open source, super easy, well documented, and all the goodies that you could have in nice libraries. And then it's for product people, developers of dApps, to take it and build nice things that then can be useful and can be turned into a product, of course, and can be useful for end users. So you exactly summarized exactly our goal.
Yeah.
So call to action for everyone here. Start thinking of some cool things you can build with Pappy. All the stuff that's the complicated stuff in the back end. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry. We will take care of that and just come.
Exactly. So I think until now, a little bit what has been happening is that since we didn't know how to hide some of the implementation details from the user, we had product people trying to put like cool fluffy things on top of that to make up for that. It's like now product people are going to have it easier because like we'll be able to hide more stuff, right? Like I don't know. I always give the same examples that like so the user now doesn't need to know about teleport. The user, like normal user doesn't need to know about bridge. They just need to know about sending, right? Like this kind of stuff, or asking the user to put a premise. Like there are product people actually trying to solve problems that they shouldn't be solving, because library authors should be doing a better job at just making sure that the final user doesn't see things that they don't have to see, right? Basically, this is a little bit what we're trying to do. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Super cool. Well, I'm very excited to keep a pulse on this project and make sure that it's being put out there in front of developers. That is what I like to do.
Thank you so much, Sasha and Evan, for having us, by the way.
Thanks for coming on, guys. And just a reminder to all viewers to follow at Join Webzero to stay up to date with all the upcoming hackathons, Sub-Zero, etc., so that you can get involved in the next one.
Thanks so much, Evan. Thanks for hosting. And those that came on the call too, Yip and Jedas had to drop early, but thank you both, Yip and Jedas, for joining, presenting what you guys did, and Carlo and Josep, thank you so much for presenting, for participating in the hackathon, for showing, also by leading by example, like let's get people kind of doing cutting edge stuff that is going to make an impact for the community and the ecosystem. So thank you for